We've gotten a ton of requests for bird footage. If you're not aware, what was supposed to be a 2-week stay at Yosemite Lakes near Yosemite National Park turned into a 2-month ordeal. Check out the babies hatching their first flight, and we lost one.
Welcome back to the RV Odd Couple. My name is John.
And I'm Mercedes. Long story short, we sold most of our possessions in pursuit of freedom, independence, and adventure.
Because life's way too short.
It is. And speaking of an adventure, what was supposed to be just a 2-week stay in Yosemite
turned into a 2-month ordeal with our Stellers Jays visitors. It was quite the experience.
So we're in Yosemite, which is one of the most beautiful places we have visited in our RVing adventures thus far.
And the birds are building a nest on the back of our RV.
At first, we thought it was so exciting, so we got the cameras and we decided to film it.
The game changed quickly when there was 1, 2, 3, and eventually 4 eggs laid in the nest when we realized we had a bit of a problem.
Now that birds had built a nest and laid eggs in the back of our RV, we couldn't move. So we had to get special permission, otherwise we were facing a $15,000 fine and 6 months in jail.
On May 28th, we had our very first hatchling breakout. This was big news locally. They ended up writing 4 articles during the whole experience. On May 29th, we had our second Stellers Jay baby. On May 30th, we had our third baby. We can't even put into words how exciting this whole process was. All 3 of us were really having a lot of fun. We did have time still to get into Yosemite and go on day trips into the park. What was absolutely amazing about the entire experience is how fast these guys grew. It blew our minds, and Sage always loved to jump up in the window in the morning.
We'd wake up, have coffee, look out the window, and watch the birds as they ate their breakfast right alongside us. Although their breakfast was pretty gross. I'm glad I wasn't eating what they were eating.
What's really interesting is Mom and Dad both fed the babies, and they would stuff food in the different parts of the nest, almost training the birds to find their own food. It was pretty cool.
It was amazing how quickly they grew. I mean, they took color quickly, you could start to see feathers, and within just 1 day's time, you could tell the difference in the growth of the feathers. Nature doesn't waste much time. What she can do in just 1 day is pretty incredible.
It's funny, you can tell by how, 1, its eyes are open, number 2, they're cracked, and number 3, the eyes still haven't opened yet.
That's cool.
Look at that.
It was so fun watching these guys and them grow up so quickly. Every day you could see a noticeable difference. And then of course we would sneak out to Yosemite and go see another beautiful sight. Come home and actually see the birds had grown while we were gone. It was absolutely amazing.
And they're a lot of work. I feel bad for those parents. That must not have been easy.
Mom and the babies were very aware of our presence, but we loved watching them. We did have a bungee cord snap on the ladder and it went into the nest. I did try 3 times to take it out, but Mom and Dad did not like this and took multiple shots at my head, getting me twice.
And the birds weren't the only wildlife we got to see in Yosemite. We got to see some bears. And then we noticed they started standing up.
And just like clockwork, they began leaving the nest 21 days after each of them were born. We were absolutely amazed after they all left the nest that last egg, the fourth egg, never hatched. Could not believe it was still in the nest. My older daughter Mackenzie pointed out to me that they don't fly from the nest, that they actually jump out onto the ground. And when the first one left, that was a long night for us. We actually worried about that little bird and where he was. We didn't see the birds for a full day. And after all three had jumped out, Mom started corralling them around our RV, all around the house. They'd hide in the grass, and Mom always had cover over the babies. There was also some speckled blackbirds that had babies on the ground, and Mom just had cover protecting those babies. It was just so amazing to watch. Eventually, she led them over to this tree that was right by our screen tent on the river, and that's how she got them to walk up. They needed to learn how to walk first, and then she could start bringing them up into the tree to teach them how to fly. It was so fun to watch. I spent 2 days chasing these little guys around all over the backyard, and I think most of the neighbors thought I was insane. And yes, Mom and Dad were whacking away at me every now and then, but just watching these guys start to flap their wings, find their balance, and grow so fast, it was just so much fun to watch. My older daughter Mackenzie had actually flown in for a few days, and it blew my mind to look at her and to realize how fast she grew. She used to be the size of Sage. She had grown so fast, so it was a lot of reflection for me. Eventually, all three birds made their way up into the tree, and they hung around in that tree for 2 days. Mom would constantly come by and feed them. They had this little dance that they would do where they'd wiggle their wings and squeak and squawk, and then Mom would fly in and feed them. It was really interesting because at this point I couldn't tell which baby was which. Spent hours and hours tracking these guys, laying in the grass, hiding in the tent and in trees, waiting to catch their first flight. He had climbed up to the highest part of the tree and flew out over the river about 50 feet away into a tree that was hanging over the river. And as soon as he did it, it was really cool because Mom didn't waste any time and she flew in. He did his little birdie wiggle dance to feed me, and Mom rewarded him for his first flight. I was so grateful and felt so blessed through this entire experience and being able to catch his first flight. After chasing these guys around for 6 hours one day, Mercedes and I decided to take a walk with Sage. When we came back, the neighbor approached us and said that one of the birds had gone into the water, and it did drown. That's when I stopped following these guys and let nature take its course. It hurt too much to follow them anymore, and it was time for us to move along in our journey. We're not sure which one went in the water, but
we left a part of our hearts in Yosemite, and we'll be forever grateful to those birds. Oh my goodness. That's insane.
2 months. I'm gonna put it in the river and let it float back to nature.
This is pretty cool.
Hey, buddy.
Does it flow?
Come on down here. Ready?
Yep.